Okay, so as promised, we'll have a quick look at the Taylor Swift website. As you know from my email, in component 2, section B, where you are going to be talking about the Taylor Swift and Bruno Mars music videos looking at representation, there will be a second question potentially, which will invite you to discuss Taylor Swift's website. And here it's less about representation, although that will come into it. The focus is more on industry, which means that we're looking at how she's marketed to her audience, um, sort of the brand image that she's creating. And really, for Taylor Swift, this is really important because she's a global superstar, and she's signed to one of the major record labels, which is Universal Records, whose aim really is to make profit. So we'll have a look, just going through her website, at how Taylor Swift is being branded, how she's being marketed towards her very wide audience, how she appeals to them so that she can sell records, sell merchandise, and continue to be relevant in the music industry, continue to be one of the biggest pop stars in the world today. So let's do a little bit of background. As you can see, the website actually hasn't changed very much since around last November. On the landing page here, we see an image, which is the front cover image of Taylor Swift's Red album. Now, the Red album was originally released 10 years ago on a different record label with a different manager, and her manager and record label at the time have actually, Taylor Swift has been involved in a lawsuit against them because they sold um, all of her recordings for $300 million, which Taylor didn't want. So what she's gone ahead and done is she's broken away from that particular record company and manager, and she's decided to re-record the albums that were sold, and Red was one of those albums. Now, Red is a really important album for Taylor Swift because it was the first album that she released that wasn't country genre. It was when she was starting to um, go little bit more mainstream, having more of a pop crossover and appealing to a much wider audience. And if you know anything about Taylor Swift, a lot of her songs at this time were all about heartbreak and the various difficult relationships that she'd had with different men along the way. We know Jonas, I don't know Jonas Brothers' names, but one of them, Harry Styles, Jake Gyllenhaal. She's talked about all of these men that she's dated in her records. So that's really part of her sort of brand, and particularly for the Red album, which was mostly a narrative where she talked about the breakdowns of these relationships, which is obviously a very universal um, theme which most, if not all, people can empathise with. So let's just go back to the main point. So the exam is going to ask you about the industry context of Taylor Swift. The industry context, as we land on her website, is that she's re-recording her albums and releasing them, so that she's basically taking back power. And she even says that she's been empowered by her fans to do this. And we can see here, and as we go through the website, that Taylor's brand is all about creating a very close and intimate relationship with her fan base. Um, and that is branding. That's not real. Taylor Swift isn't going to turn up at your house for dinner. She is a global superstar. She does lots of things in real life, that will show that she's trying to have good relationships with her fans, and she does lots of sort of in-person events. But she is also extremely famous and extremely rich, and so she is still someone that people can look up to. So we can see here the Red album cover, and it says Taylor's version. And again, that's that really empowering sense that she's taking back control of her career, taking back control of her songs, the songs that she has written, that were sold for $300 million by these very powerful men in a very powerful record label. And so what we really have here is Taylor being empowered. It's a really feminist branding and representation of her. She's taken on the patriarchy, and she is showing her audience how strong she is to have come through that, and now she's going to be more in control of her own career. So a really strong feminist representation for the branding of this artist, and that's really what her marketing is all about: female empowerment and her kind of intimate, close relationship with her audience. But of course, the main point of Taylor Swift is to make money for the record label, which is Universal. So as we go on the landing page, we've got the Red Album, Taylor's version, available now. Most people who like Taylor Swift will already own this record. So what they're trying to do here is entice the audience to buy the record again. And as we go down, we can see different ways that the record company is attempting to do that. So we can see the CD includes exclusive album booklet, never seen before photos, artwork and lyrics. And this is if you buy the physical CD version of the new release of the Red Album, or the new recording of the Red Album. The word exclusive really makes it feel for the sort of die-hard Taylor Swift fans that they're going to get something really that isn't available anywhere else. This is the only place that you can get the photos, the artwork. And then we've got here, while supplies last. So that really gives a bit of pressure. The audience are really being pressured into buying this album before it runs out. You can also buy it as a vinyl record. So as a, vinyls are having a bit of a resurgence at the moment. They're very popular with young audiences, and clearly the Taylor Swift brand is trying to cash in on this. And again, we've got here a copy of Taylor's handwritten lyrics. So again, the Taylor Swift brand trying to create that very personal and intimate relationship with her audience. It's something personal. Your handwriting is very personal. So that really helps to build her brand as sort of the girl next door, someone that audiences can relate to. And as we scroll down, we start to see different aspects then of Taylor's career. So the Red Album was re-released last November, but she hasn't been quiet since then. She's been doing different things. So here we have an advertisement for her upcoming song. So coming soon, so creating some enigma, creating some sort of engagement and excitement for her original song, Carolina, which is going to be in the film Where the Crawdads Sing. Just as a side note, if you haven't read that book, I highly recommend. But this is showing really how Taylor Swift has matured over the past 10 years. And we can actually see that through the images above as well. We've got quite a mature representation here of Taylor Swift. She's not the kind of cutesy 22-year-old country pop singer anymore. She's a serious artist. She writes her own music. She performs her own music. She is huge in the music industry, and someone that and someone who is authentic, and that's really her brand, part of her brand as well. So Where the Crawdads Sing is a film that is going to be aimed at sort of a more adult audience, or people in their 20s, 30s, 40s. It's based on a book, a critically acclaimed book, and it's being produced by Reese Witherspoon. So you've got that kind of idea that Taylor Swift is branching out. She's sort of involving herself in different projects with other very high caliber stars such as Reese Witherspoon. And here you can see again that they're trying to make it really exciting. You can pre-save on Spotify, join the mailing list, pre-ad on Apple. So really building up that enigma, that excitement for the song that's coming out. As we scroll down again, something really different, and again that shows how Taylor Swift, the brand, is maturing and showing that she's not just a singer, she's not just a songwriter. Here we can see Taylor Swift, the filmmaker. So she's written and directed a short film called All Too Well, and you can see here Sadie Sink from Stranger Things, and Dylan, I can't think, some of you will recognise him anyway. Go on the website, have a watch of the video. But why is this important? Well, because Taylor Swift is maturing. Her audience won't really have changed. Her die-hard fans, the Swifties, have been following her career since probably before the Red Album, so for the past 10 years at least, and they are growing up. And as they grow up, Taylor Swift also needs to grow up, otherwise she risks losing that audience. And this is how she's going to keep hold of those audiences who are now sort of in their 30s, late 20s and 30s. She's showing that she's a serious artist. She's able to be creative in lots of different areas of the arts. And she's also aligning herself with some really popular faces of the moment. And particularly here we have Sadie Sink from Stranger Things. And this short film, it's about 12 minutes long, also features one of her songs. The theme and the genre is kind of drama, romance. It's about a relationship breaking down and how the couple are kind of recovering from that. So do watch it, because it really feeds into this brand that the record label are creating of Taylor Swift as this kind of, someone who's real, someone who experiences heartache, and that's something that we can all relate to. As we scroll down, we can see lots of merchandise here. There's also a tab at the top, a hyperlink that will take you to this part of the website. So we've got the CD and the digital version and vinyl versions again, album rings and t-shirts, all kinds of things that you can buy, and you can view all items here. And again, let's not forget that Taylor Swift is signed to one of the biggest record labels, one of the major record labels, Universal, where the sole aim really there is to make profits, make money, and selling merchandise is a fantastic way for them to do that. So by cashing in on the Taylor Swift brand, and they've called it the Swiftie Summer Collection. Let's not forget that Swiftie is the name of the Taylor Swift artist fan base. And you can see all kinds of summer things there. A pool float for £50. Sunglasses, you can have a beaded bracelet, all kinds of strange things like a glass. But again, these are really aimed at the die-hard fans, the people that, Taylor Swift is their absolute favourite artist. And as we scroll down, again, you can see some more of her latest releases. And these are the most recent albums that she's released. And you can see, again, that kind of branding across all of these album covers, those desaturated tones, serious photography, beautiful images, really reminding us that she's not that young pop star anymore. She's grown up. Folklore album, the word folklore suggests that it's going to be far less poppy, more serious, perhaps guitar-based music. And actually on the Folklore album, she has collaborated with, at the time, over the last 2 years, she's collaborated with a band called The National, who are most certainly aimed at people in their 30s and 40s. They've been around for a very long time. So again, showing that maturity in her branding and who she is as a person, and she's growing up. And as we get to the bottom, we can see you can sign up to receive updates. Again, creating that personal connection with the audience makes it feel quite exciting. Yes, I'm in. Yeah, really exciting. So if we scroll back up to the top, and we can see here as we go along the tabs, there are various videos that we can scroll through. Again, thinking about the different artists that she is collaborating with and what that tells us about her maturity as an artist, but also Taylor's version, again, stamping her authority, her ownership over the songs that she has written. This tab is quite interesting, the events, because she's cancelled some dates, presumably because of COVID, but she's written a personal apology to her audience, and that's really a big part of her brand, speaking directly to the audience. And you can take time to read that yourself. Now, if we go up to the top here, what we can actually see are links to her social media. So let's start with YouTube. So again, you can see the branding, the industry branding continues across her social media. The Red Album is the key focus in what she's selling at the moment, with the same images being used across all of the branding. We immediately land and we see the Sadie Sink and Dylan O'Brien film, and we can see some of her other videos. Now, if you click on community, this is probably the most interesting tab. What we have here are sort of blog style posts that appear to be written by Taylor Swift. It's most likely, actually, that these have been written by her PR team, but they're written in a way that makes the audience feel that they are being spoken to directly by her, that she's taken the time to communicate with them. And that's really all part of her branding. And as we scroll down, she actually communicates with fans. And here, this is quite an interesting post from 5 months ago. This is a photograph photographs from her birthday, which feels quite exclusive. It feels like for the audience that they're getting an insight into her personal life. You can see these are not really sort of patch photographs. These are quite personal photographs that she's sharing. So through these blog posts, she writes them as if, they're written as if they're written by her. We don't know, perhaps they are, but I would imagine as I said, that they're probably written by a PR team. Certainly they're checked by a PR team. But the wording that she uses, again, creates that sense that the Swifties, that her fan base are really important to her. Just a friendly reminder that I would never have thought it was possible to go back and remake my previous work if you hadn't emboldened me. So that direct address with the audience, letting the audience know that they have helped her to feel brave enough to stand up against her former manager and to re-record her albums again. So, and that will really entice the audience to reaffirm their kind of love of Taylor Swift and go ahead and buy the album. If we go back, we can also have a look at perhaps her Facebook. She has Tumblr, she has Twitter. So let's have a look there. Sorry, I just switched my phone off. So, Taylor Swift then, again, the cross-platform branding remains the same. The same images, the same album being shown. So what can we see? It would never be possible to go back and remake my previous work. So she's using images again and the same notice. So you can take your time to go through and have a look at what she's got on her Twitter page. She's also got a Tumblr page, which feels quite old now, I suppose. Instagram. Here we are. And obviously this will look different on your phone, but I'm just showing you through my desktop. So again, lots of images. This is one that I spoke about in the video. Apologies because I'm not logged in here. But we can see she's actually got no makeup on in this image. She's crying as well. So really, again, that intimate representation of her as someone who is not unobtainable. She's not like Beyonce. Beyonce would never be seen without her makeup on. As you know, Beyonce has kind of been quite angered and threatened legal action against people who have taken really unflattering photographs of her. You might remember from the Super Bowl a few years ago, there were some really unflattering pictures of her that she tried to, or her PR company, record company tried to stop being released. But here we can see Taylor Swift actually, no makeup, looking just like a normal girl. And that's part of her appeal as well for the audience. So I would recommend going through and having a look at some of her social media, jotting down some notes about the way that she has been marketed towards the audience. So just to refresh, do go back to my essay that I've written that gives an overview of all of this, slightly less rambling overview. But do think about that industry context. Let's recap. It's a world. She's a global superstar signed to one of the major record labels, which is Universal Records. Their purpose, of course, is to make profit, and we can see throughout her website ways that they do that through pre-ordering and ordering her album, through merchandise, through touring. But the way that they are continuing to engage that worldwide, global, very wide audience is by ensuring that the brand Taylor Swift continues to evolve, continues to grow alongside her audience. So we can see some very mature images being used throughout her website. Also, the sense that she cares about her audience, that she wants to give them content that they will enjoy. So that will account for things like the short film that she's made, having her record in Where the Crawdads Sing. And if you go and listen to that song, it actually sounds a lot like Lana Del Rey. It's a very mature sound, worlds and worlds away from the Romeo and Juliet songs that she was doing 10, 12, 15 years ago. So those are the key points. Go back to the essay, have a look around the website, and be prepared in the exam to talk about how she is marketed towards her audience. Bear in mind that all of this is free marketing. The record company does not have to pay. I mean, all they are paying for really is possibly to host a website. But all of this doesn't cost them any money, and it speaks directly to the audience, and it's directly available to the audience. Do talk about that cross-platform promotion, the fact that the branding is the same across all platforms, and even as you go through the website, there is a sense of this very mature artist, this authentic artist being represented, being marketed towards a mature audience. If you have any questions, obviously please email me as always, and I'll try to help you.